The going, you know what? Just learning to be okay and accept me and give myself what I need in each day, each season. That's the purpose. Make sure I'm taken care of now. Everybody's learning. Everybody's growing. Everybody's got to start somewhere.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to How the Wise One Grows. And today we are on the road in a closet in Nashville with the one and only Lacy Hartselle. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I'm so excited to introduce you to this wonderful human today. And this is like a really special day for me because Lacy and I have had a lot of overlap virtually over the years, but this is the first day we met in the flesh.
Feels so natural.
It really does. It feels so good. I'm so excited to be here with you. But before I get into it, I feel really excited. So let's just take a moment to land here together. Okay. So wherever you are, you can gently rest your eyes if it feels safe for you. Notice where your body touches the earth. Feel your spine lengthen and your shoulders soften. Inhale, fill your chest, fill your belly with air. And exhale, open your mouth, let it all out. Let's take 2 more breaths like this. Inhale, chest and belly expand. Exhale, open your mouth, let it all go. One more big inhale. And exhale. Notice where your body touches the earth. And know that you can return to this grounding again and again. And you can slowly open your eyes as you return to this space. I'm smiling so big right now.
Same.
I love it. Well, I'm so excited to introduce you all to Lacy today. I was lucky enough to come across Lacy through my little brother, Austin.
Mm-hmm.
And
he kept reminding me, or he kept saying, you remind me of my sister, Holly.
That's exactly how he was like, I met this person today that reminds me of you. She like made me do yoga and breathe. And I was like, I'm so glad you have someone like that in your life right now. There was a day I like tricked Austin into going on a run with me when he was like home visiting, and I think you maybe like did something similar to him, and he was like, Lacy did that same thing to me.
He was more game than he let on.
Yeah, that's the thing. He like puts up a front, but then he like wants it, you know? He was like, you wanted to do this. Yeah. You just wanted to complain too.
Which is okay.
Yeah. But aside from that really cool way of knowing Lacy, I can share a little bit more about her with you. So Lacy Hartselle is a multi-award winning actress and passionate mental health advocate. Lacy created and hosts a podcast called This is Temporary, which is amazing, that destigmatizes mental health. It's an unfiltered, unapologetic, and relatable mental health podcast about finding purpose in the pain. How beautiful is that? So without further ado, here is Lacy.
Hey.
Thank you so much for joining today.
Yeah, thank you for asking me. It's an honor, really. And I'm just so excited, as we spoke of, that you're doing this because I think the most important thing we can do on this planet is honor ourselves. And you spoke of this being a nudge inside of you years ago. So to see it come to fruition is it's a gift to see.
Well, you were such a part of that. For those who don't know, Lacy was like kind enough to hold space for me on This is Temporary. And
you were a gift. Come on.
But she really, like, I was kind of saying, like, man, I've always kind of wanted to do a podcast. And she was like, I know that feeling and you should just step into it. I'm here to support along the way. And like, those are the people. I think sometimes we wait for like some big sign or something to push you into something, but it can be those like little sparkles, those little breadcrumbs like that are like, actually, we're telling you to do this. It's right here for you.
Absolutely. Because the truth is, like, we don't need anything outside of ourselves, but I grossly understand feeling like I need someone outside of me to tell me and give me permission.
Mm-hmm.
And it's nice, like you said, to have the breadcrumbs and the little like spirit nudges that's, in the form of little signs or people saying something to you. But ultimately, it was your idea all along,
Yeah. And thank you for saying that. That's like such a great reminder to hold.
It was from you.
Yeah. And it is. It's all inside of us.
Yeah,
and it's that ability to tap into it.
Mm-hmm.
And like those people in our lives are kind of mirrors to help us see those parts of ourselves more deeply and be more willing to step into that fullness.
So true. Yeah. I do love seeing like, I struggle very well.
That is the most accurate way to put that. I struggle very well.
I struggle often.
It is a struggle.
But I do feel like, I don't know, like I wait for things outside of me, or I get really down thinking one day defined, where I am at that moment. One day does not define where you are, and one day does not take you back years in the past, even though it might feel like it. Emotions can tell us that. But I think a good guide map for me has been to look at the people around me and to go, these people are different than a couple years ago. Whether they're the same people that have grown with me, or whether they're new people that reflect, as you say, where I am now and what I care about now. That's a good measure, I think, when we're feeling when you're feeling kind of like the darkness around you. Look at the people in your life and go, wow, they're a mirror of how far I've grown. And if they're not a mirror of what you want in your life, then maybe it's time for some change,
That's such a good way to put that, and let that reflection be there.
Yeah. Because it is cool to see, like, on days where, I especially, I'm trying to get better at that in my relationship with myself. That's been a journey, especially recently. I just went to the beach for 10 days by myself in solitude.
I am so proud of you for that.
Thanks.
That's like...
It was a lot. Yeah. It's beautiful, but it was also a lot.
Yeah. Well, in some way, 10 days is really interesting that you did that, because that's as long as a Vipassana retreat is. Are you familiar with Vipassana?
No. Enlighten me. Let's go.
This is like, now that I'm saying this, it's going to put it into reality, which is scary. But
cool.
It's something I've told myself for years that I want to do a Vipassana. It's Vipassana meditation. It's a 10-day silent guided meditation process. You go to this space. There are people who guide you. There's no speaking, no like stimulus really for those 10 days. And it's something I have really wanted to do but been really scared to do, but I am feeling closer and closer to that point to be ready for it. So it's really interesting to me that like the way you held space for yourself was that 10 days and that alone, like my first meditation teacher described mindfulness, or described a friend as someone you waste enough time with. And mindfulness and meditation hold space for you to like spend time with yourself in that way and become friends with yourself.
Yeah.
So as scary and as uncomfortable it can be to go into those spaces alone, you're like getting into all these other layers of yourself that normally there's like so much distraction around that can stop you from getting to know it.
Well, and those distractions are there to do just that. We've created them. We've been conditioned to do that, to not dig deep, to condition to just do what everyone else does, move with the flow of the group, And it's like when you're pulled apart from the group, you go, how much of this conditioning and socialization actually serves me? How much of it is me? What have I been, labeling myself or identifying myself with that has actually nothing to do with my raw self? Yeah. And you're right, that solitude of like, I had my dog with me, Maisel.
That's necessary.
Yeah. And I was at the beach, don't get me wrong. Like, I talked with people at the dog park. I talked with people at the dog beach. But yeah, and I had a couple FaceTimes with friends at times. But overall, I really was just absorbing myself. And absorbing a lot of other information too. I was reading a lot, listening to a lot of books on tapes and podcasts, and writing a lot. But It is. I think it's the hardest work we can do, and some of the scariest work we can do is to face ourselves.
I completely agree.
Because we're I do think like conditioned to be scared of ourselves. It's not what they call it. It's not what it looks like on the outside. It's not how it's presented. But why do we think that we have this divided self with the shadow? And it's because so much of us is like, nope, that part didn't fit in. Nope, that part is not acceptable.
Yeah.
And it's not true.
Yeah. I wish I could remember the origins of this, but I was talking to my dear friend Tara about this the other day. There's this theory of like the long black bag, and it's like all of those parts of yourself that don't fit into this mold or don't fit into this or that. Yeah, it kind of goes in that black bag. It goes in that black bag, and then you're carrying this huge weight of all of these parts of yourself that you're like keeping in that bag instead of letting it be a part of you and be free. And you might even forget and not know that parts of yourself are in there.
Absolutely.
And it can be like really scary to reach in and not necessarily know what you're going to get.
That's such a
but
good
be willing
point.
To see it.
That the unknown is more terrifying than the known.
It is.
Because there are a lot of people who do know what's, or at least partially, they're like, oh, that's that, they know it themselves if they're honest. It's like, oh, I know I'm running from that.
Yeah.
I know I'm running from, because you can't name it or label it or organize it. It's like, it feels like you can't control it.
Yeah.
You can't control people's perception of it. So why on earth would I bring it to the light? But the parts that are like you were saying, that are like, I if you even tune in, which most people aren't, given the chance to even do that with themselves yet, where it's like maybe you're having physical issues, maybe your body's not responding the way, functioning correctly. I always think it's a root of something else.
Yep.
I'm not saying that like everything is that way. There are obviously diseases and things in the world that we're like, we'll never be able to wrap our heads around. But for me personally, I've had so many physical issues in my life that I think my inner knowing was like, there is an emotional root to healing this, and once you accept and face this part of you and like let go, then like, I don't know what TMI is, but like for me, I've just been like constipated my whole adult life.
That was me as a kid.
Yeah. Well, see, I was the opposite as a kid. As a kid, I've always had anxiety disorder, and so as a kid, it was the opposite. It was just like things went straight through me kind of thing.
Yeah.
It was like too much, and then in my adulthood, my early adulthood, it just switched, and it was like I locked up. And I think it's because I was finally old enough and developed enough to be able to consciously start to register my trauma. So it was like then the anxiety and the like, I don't know. I think that's my theory on kind of what happened there.
And it's hard to have a healthy way to release those things, so our body is holding on to it.
And it takes time too. It's hard because it's like, so many of us are built to be fixers. It's like, just fix it, just do it. We're achievement driven. It's like we're honestly in this society basing our worth, on how much we achieve and accomplish.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know. That's why I think it's the Toni Morrison quote. She says, I think it's from her grandfather, but she's quoted, and she's incredible. You are not what you do, or it's not the work that you do, but who you are, pretty much.
Yeah.
That was not verbatim, but that was her point behind it.
Yeah.
Because it's countercultural to say that. It's not the work you do, actually. Like,
yeah.
It's who you are.
I remember at my last job when I worked with other humans.
Yeah.
Me and my boss had a great relationship, and we would often sign our emails off to each other like, you are more important than the work that you do.
Yeah.
And that reminder of your work does not define your worth, and that's so hard to grasp in this Western world where we're pushed for the more.
Right. That's why I really like I know some people are very annoyed with the Enneagram, and some people are just in love with it.
It's cool.
I do too. For me, and it's taken me a while to get there because I am a 4.
Well, you are an
that's...
artist. I'm not surprised.
But like 4s don't like being labeled.
Yeah.
And one of my things
that's
is,
true.
like, one of my sayings now is like, if I label myself, I limit myself. And that I do feel is true. I feel like I listened to a podcast with Ocean Vuong the other day, and I loved what he was saying about we're all a journey.
Was that on Glennon Doyle's?
It was. Did you listen to that one?
I haven't listened yet.
That one's so good.
But I just listened to her Enneagram one, and she is also a 4.
Oh, yes. Okay, so yes. I love her so much.
Amazing.
I've read her books, and I'm just in love. They're making a show.
That's what I heard.
With Sarah Paulson.
Yeah.
So,
it's going to be incredible.
Amazing things.
Yeah.
But, yeah, the what I like is understanding that today what we talk about is the best we know today.
Yeah.
You know, we're always on a journey. I'm always evolving. I hope my beliefs and my values continue, well, I mean, to some degree, you know, continue to shift and evolve in a way that continues to serve my growth in life.
Yeah.
You know, and to not be so attached to an image or an identity of myself that I refuse to even let myself grow.
Yeah.
And I think that's helped with my shadow work too, is like afraid to face certain parts of myself that would change my identity and the way that the world sees me. And I was like, but Lacy, do you like the way you're seen? Do you feel comfortable? Do you feel seen? You know? And I think it was, I forget her last name, but I was at a event where the guy speaking was Jonathan Sheck. He's an awesome actor, but his wife Julie actually was like, how do you expect to be seen when you're hiding? Pretty much.
Yeah.
Like, you want to be seen if you're hiding. And I was like, I don't know if she coined that, but I heard her say it and it stuck. And I was like, yeah, I mean, we all want to be seen, I think, and seen and accepted for who we are, but we're so afraid that who we are is not worthy of being seen and accepted. And because I think too, it goes back to like the socialization, because we're, I think, conditioned to think we gauge ourselves and we outsource our worth. You know, it's like, according to you, I'm good. So yeah, I feel good today because the people I'm around think I'm cool.
Yeah, because my ego got all this feedback. I have found like getting to know my ego has been one of the hardest and greatest gifts that I've come to know. And a lot of it being like, ego's not bad.
No.
Ego's not good. It's just ego. And being able to acknowledge like this person in my life that I really love and I'm excited for, that this exciting thing happened for, like, ooh, there's ego over there saying like, like, I wish that was me, or like that person.
The stories are ego says,
those stories, and being able to just kind of like look at the ego and be like, I see you. Like, what do you need right now, ego? And then like we can sit down and relax and not let that story kind of take over. And just kind of like having that ability to observe. And once you can name it, that it's the ego, it's like a weight off the shoulders. My body can soften. I can exhale. And it's like, okay, that's not me. Just like, you are not your thoughts. You're not your ego. These are just a part of the human experience. And you can hold space to observe it and not get so caught up in it. And then your agency comes in when you decide, this is what I'm going to step into.
Yeah, exactly. And you can link up with it and, like you said, work alongside. Do you listen to or like the holistic psychologist?
I haven't. I need to listen to that.
I really like Dr. Nicola Pera wrote a book, How to Do the Work. And it's all about like trauma work and shadow work. And she had a chapter on ego. And she was like, name your ego. Yeah.
No, you should. You should give it a name. They're like, I've done practices called, I wish I remembered the name of this book, and I'll have to put this in the notes because it's profound, but it's based off of like a, I'm going to mess up the origins of the practice, but a traditional practice, and it's called like feeding your demons.
Oh, sure.
And it was literally like that thing that I'm struggling with. Maybe it's my anger right now. Sure. I picture like right now, Lacy and I are sitting across from each other in a room, and it's like you set 2 cushions on the floor, you sit on one, you have another, and you imagine that thing that you're resisting sitting in front of you. You give it a name. You like picture it as clearly as you can. And there's like conversation prompts to have with it, and you vocalize out loud like, what's going on? What do you need? You ask these specific questions. Then you switch places. Ooh. And you sit on the cushion and you become that thing, and you answer the questions you just asked. And then you like flip back and it's kind of like, what do you need? And essentially you visualize like who you are melting into the thing that your like demon needs.
Yeah.
And allowing your demon to like consume it until it's full, which is like insane. But I found it so healing.
Oh, okay. I have never heard that exercise. I'm like, my mouth was open that whole time. I was just like, whoa, please, whoa.
I'll put the links to the book in because it's a traditional practice that deserves to be honored that I'm butchering by my description right now. But
you're interpreting your take on it, and it made sense to me. Yeah. You know, I feel like you made it very approachable. Yeah. It was like, anyone can do this exercise. Yeah. You know? I've never heard of that one. I have heard of like, getting like you don't have to be an artist for this, but getting like a sketch pad out and like trying to draw what it is.
Yes.
You know, like put it into a little character, you know, and
my therapist makes me do that. And it is so freaking helpful. Yeah. Like I feel like a child, which like for me, I love. I know some people are kind of like, what are you doing? But I'm like, yes, this is great. And it kind of is like a nervous system calming down that's happening when you're doing that. And you're kind of creating these new neural pathways as you're like drawing out this thing. You're getting yourself to approach this thing that you've been scared of by picturing it in front of you and drawing it in front of you and becoming more connected to it.
Yeah. Well, and if you're making it known, and when you're making it's, again, I really do think, even though people can, you know, use their imaginations to think about all kinds of things that are the scariest thing they could fathom, I still think the unknown is scarier to most people. Yeah. You know, because it's like, how do I even prep myself for what to expect? Because when you know something, you can then you can use that awareness to armor yourself and to go, well, here's how I handle that. Now I've got a plan because I have clarity. But without any of that, you're like, how do I, and it comes back to trust. How do I trust that I'll be ready to handle anything, you know? Yeah. But I like that you said it's also childlike sounding, because I feel like as a characteristic, like if I was describing myself, childlike would be at the top of the, you know, adjectives.
Which is like my favorite thing.
Yeah. Well, me too.
Well, I loved that when
I'm wearing overalls.
Yeah, she's wearing overalls and a rainbow ring, and I was like, oh, my soul. I'm home.
Yeah. It's true that it's like, you know, I mean, I have days where I'm like, I am a woman. But for the most part, like I really embrace. And it's funny to see mirrored in my emotional work and this solitude I just had alone. I talked to my therapist a lot, and I was like, so much of what I'm doing feels fundamental and elementary. You know, it feels like a kid could do this work. And I was like, but that is who I'm working with. Yeah. I'm working with my kid, myself. And I have on the background on my phone right now, literally, it's a picture of me in 4th grade.
Oh my God. And I love it. Look at those curls.
I wanted to be Shirley Temple so bad. But I also, like, it's this version, this purity. I think, I don't know, so many little themes started to marinate throughout my past couple of weeks. And I was like, how am I going to, you know, lean into letting that guide this next season of my life, this growth, this evolution that I'm seeing in myself, and to maintain it. Yeah. But a huge thing for me that popped out was, talk about listening to, like, binge listening to Glennon Doyle's podcast, We Can Do Hard Things. The episode she had with Susan Cain, she was talking about, what do you long for? Like, that's what connects people and creates, you know, communion, which is, I think, the purpose of our being here, but also remind you about, like, what you're about, what your purpose is, and how to align with that. And so I was just thinking, and all of a sudden, when I was driving back, it was like a 14-hour drive, and I was driving back, and it popped into my head. I was like, pure and true, pure and true. It was just those 2 words that just were like, boom. And I was like, okay. So I just kind of like listened to music and was like meditating on pure. It wasn't purity, it was pure. What is pure? What is true? What is pure? What is true? And what is pure, when you think about it, it's like, okay, I think about like pure water. You know what I mean? Like water that is not even tampered with. It is just exactly, it's like on a spring on top of a mountain kind of thing. I think about childhood before we're socialized or traumatized, you know. I think about laughter, you know. It's just like, you couldn't have forced me to laugh at that. It was involuntary. It just came out of me. It was pure.
When the thought's not there, when you just are in the flow, you're letting life happen through you versus thinking about it.
Yeah. And then true is like,
harmony.
True is something that just feels, Glennon Doyle says, feels warm.
Yeah.
What feels warm to you?
Yeah.
And it's like we were talking about with sunshine.
Yeah.
It's like that just feels right. It feels good. It feels nourishing. And so I feel like now, although my goal when I went into my solitude, because I was really struggling, I had like a 4 or 5 month depression from like November to the beginning of April. And I started to come out. Actually, it was towards like the end of March, because I started to come out of it. And I was like, I switched out of my depressive episode and had like 3 or 4 weeks of like, I'm not depressed. This is great. I have energy. I can start to take care of myself. But I still felt very purposeless, very aimless, very frustrated, very not worthy, not deserving, not confident, very insecure, and very envious. And I was like, what's going on,
Yeah.
And so that's when a time opened up, a window opened up, where my acting studio I go to was off of a week for Easter or something. And I was like, Mom and Dad, can I go down to y'all's beach house with chicken and, just, chill? And so on my way down there, of course, I was like, okay, this is a little intimidating, but I'm going to be at the beach, so it's all going to be fine.
Yeah.
Just,
saltwater is very
healing. It is. And it was a full moon. It was the full moon in Libra.
Special.
Yeah, which is my moon sign.
My moon sign too.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, diplomatic, sides. Gotta find out balance.
Yep. Relationships.
Like, yes, exactly. It was like for me, it was my relationship with myself.
Yeah.
It was finding the balance of my masculinity and my femininity. It was finding the dark with the light. It was finding harmony. And I knew that going into it, but I still was just feeling like overwhelmed. But my goals were, I want to fall in love with myself.
Yes.
And I want clarity. Those were like the two things. And it's funny that I don't have like answers figured out on specifics, but I also don't feel like I need to now. Do you know what I mean?
So much. It's when you open up to it.
Yeah.
And you're no longer afraid of either outcome.
Yeah.
The answers need not come so much. You're just willing to be with whatever arises for you.
Exactly. I even had I went to like a little impromptu reading. There was this little spiritual shop nearby, and it was on the full moon on like Saturday, I think the 17th or something. And I popped in. I was like, okay, well, if they have an opening, I'll do it, and if they don't, that's okay too, because I read tarot and oracle, and I like to guide myself on my little rituals. But there was someone, and I had never had my palms read, though I have studied
that's
it.
so fun.
But wow, it was amazing. All the specifics that came up, and I mean, I literally sat down and he started going. I didn't say anything.
Yeah.
So it was really cool to see what popped up, but he said something that stood out to me, and it's just funny that any other time, you might not register something, but in that moment, it was really like it hit me. And he was like, yeah, it doesn't really matter what way you go. He was like, you got this.
What a beautiful answer. Like, I think we worry so much about, am I doing the right thing? And there is no right thing.
It's all relative.
Yeah, it's leaning into like that, what feels true, what feels warm.
What feels pure and true to you. It's what, at the end of the day, it's like, if I honored myself in that moment, I can't have regret. Because, and I mean, they say that the why, I mean, I love that your podcast is like, how it's like, because the wise mind, the mature, evolved spirit knows, and I conceptually know this, I'm starting to understand it in my heart, but knows that it's all the same.
Yeah.
The good, the bad, we're all judging it, but it's like the ebb and the flow, the highs and the lows, the dark and the light, it's all necessary, It's all, I mean, for me, like, that's what yoga is. And that's like what my worldview is based on, is like this oneness. Yeah.
And like, I remember in some of my first sessions with my therapist, we were talking, and I was talking about these experiences I was having. And she just stopped and looked at me and was like, well, Holly, do you want to be a happy person, or do you want to be a whole person? And I was like, well, damn.
Yeah.
Like, you're right. I want to be whole.
Yeah.
And these things that are happening, she's just like, it's not bad. It's just happening.
Yeah.
And it's a part of this human experience. And we're taught so much to push that away, to push that in the shadows, under the rug. But the truth is, to be whole, we need those parts of ourselves too.
Absolutely. It's and that's what made me want to start my podcast back.
Yeah.
Was because I believe in my worth now, and
Yes.
I believe again, and like, you know, it's funny because I'd be like, I can't wait to hear all y'all's voices and y'all do stuff, but I just didn't feel like I had a seat.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or like I was worthy of it, and that was my own thing to work through. That was my darkness to sit in.
And it's a common feeling, you know. I felt a lot of that too, and kind of what you said was like, the head can understand and the heart's catching up.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's where the head is like, conceptually, I get it. And you got to like let your heart then step into that.
Exactly. And that often requires the action.
Yeah.
You know, the risk and the experience to let yourself be like, I now can see and trust because I'm doing.
Yes.
You know, it's like I could only conceptualize, but when I started to move with that momentum and go, okay, I'm going to start to plan to do this.
Yeah.
You know, and you're on that journey, it's like, okay, now you're letting your heart get involved.
Yeah.
You're letting yourself hope. And I think it's a really scary thing to hope in this world.
It is.
And that's so relatable, but it also is like, that doesn't mean we shouldn't. I'm saying this so strongly to myself right now.
No.
because I had a breakthrough. So I had it was a journey, those 10 days in solitude, but 2 days in particular were really rough. Necessary, I see now, but they felt the day of that they were happening, and I was absorbed by them. When we're so absorbed by our emotion, there's not really rationality involved. It's hard to see outside of it, and it was very powerful. So it made me feel like I haven't gotten anywhere. What the fuck am I doing? Where am I going with this? What's the point? I'm back where I was years ago, whatever. But I realize, these waves of emotion, it's like when I know what's happening and when it's familiar, I've gotten pretty good in it because I'm an Enneagram 4 at being an emotional person and letting emotions hit me and run through me. But when I don't know what they are, when I don't know what's going on, or when they feel too triggering, I just feel small again, I really fight it. But now, after those 2 really freaking tough days of feeling like I was a kid again and powerless, helpless, rejected, not feeling chosen, I felt like I was difficult. I felt like there were very specific words that came up for me. But that was all intentional so that I could purge it, so that I could move through it.
It has to come to the surface in order to release, and we have to meet it to release it. And the more we resist it, and there's just no way out than through, you know? So we have to look it in the eyes. And as painful as it can be, you had the willingness to sit there with it. And what a gift you gave yourself to then you're like having a conversation with those past parts of yourselves, and you're strong in it and you're grounded in it, and it can reabsorb into you in a healing way.
Yes. And that was a transition that so what happened for me, just because it really was a new experience of healing in that way, and that it was not like I had never faced this part of my trauma before. It was not like I was unaware. It was just I've been grieving that enough. Okay. I went through intensive trauma therapy for 3 months. I'm still in therapy now, and I always will be. And I do so much. I read so much. I'm always trying to, grow and heal. But again, the head is different than the heart. Yeah. Like you were saying, you put yourself in solitude. What are you going to face there that you can't face when you're at home with other people in your everyday life? Yeah. Right? So it did find me there. And I was so fearful in the moment that was like, I'm just facing this again just to feel powerless and to feel like here I am trying to heal. And now that it's coming up and tackling me today, it's showing me that I can't beat it. That's what it felt like. Yeah. It felt like
healing isn't linear,
it's not,
you know?
It is not. And it felt like a wall. And it was like, I can't see around this. I just feel defeated again. I'm afraid to go back home because it's centered in on, I love my family members, and I admire our beautiful, we put the fun in dysfunction, I say. But we have beautiful hearts. We're people with really beautiful hearts. We're all very fractured in our own ways, but working on our own healing individually, and I'm proud of us for that. We've come a long way. But a lot of my, most of all of my trauma roots from my father, and it's because his roots from what he grew up with.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like his intention was to hurt me, but
it's generational.
It is.
And
it
it's
is.
hard to see those patterns.
Yeah.
And to look them and...
Well, to make it not about the person.
Yeah. And to
know?
be able to say, like, I see what you're putting on me right now, and I'm not going to receive that.
Yeah.
Like, I'll receive your love, and I'm going to give you that back.
Yeah.
Because I know you don't even want to give that to me.
Yeah, exactly. This was not your intention to start with. And I just felt so crushed underneath the voices, the critical voices of my dad, which I know he absorbed as well. So it was like, I was even got in this fearful, stuck, emotional place on that one day in particular where I was like, what the fuck do I do? Like, I'm afraid to even go home now. Like, I'm afraid to even, I'm afraid I'll be triggered. I'm just afraid. So much fear. And in fear, there isn't much clarity at all.
No.
And so, it wasn't until it was literally the next day. It's funny. I read a bunch of books at once, which I hear a lot of creative minds do that. It's like I'm reading like 6 books right now, but it's like I read this chapter and then I read that and then I read that. I migrate through what feels right that day.
Yeah.
And I was back in the Codependent No More book, which
I know that one well.
That's a good one. That's a good one. And I had been just marking it up and down, and it was interesting that I got to the chapter about feeling your feelings the next day, and I literally, out of anger, like put the book down. I was like, I feel my feelings. I'm tired of feeling my feelings. It's not helping. I feel controlled by my feelings. I'm literally diagnosed bipolar. So I was like, ah! And I just like got in the pool and like literally cooled down. And then I was like, I'm going to open that chapter back up. And so I opened it back up. And again, something that maybe on another day, had it not followed the day before, this maybe not, wouldn't have registered to me as like revolutionary. But I opened it back up, and she was talking about these strong feelings that move through us. They're so energetic. They're not attached to us. They're a part. They become a part of us for a time, but it's energy. It's like, poof, it went through me. You know what I mean? She was like, sometimes, or most of the time, these strong feelings like that are there to indicate, hey, you need a change here. You need a thought pattern change, because this isn't working, and this feeling that is so uncomfortable is too familiar, and heck yeah, you're frustrated with it because it's stale, and it's just stagnant. It's like the pressure cooker kind of thing. It's just like, burst it, let it or I don't know, I saw like a cyst in my little bowl. I was like, pop it,
Pop the zit.
Get that pus out, So it's like, that shit doesn't serve you anymore.
Yeah.
Get it out. It's not pure, and it's not a part of you.
You don't have to keep doing the same things in the same way.
Yeah. So it was then in that moment that I kind of went, okay. And then like at the end of that page, it said, so now you know what's going on. What is your solution you're going to find for yourself, pretty much? And I was like, oh my gosh, the empowerment that happened in that moment, that I really had a hangover from the terrible emotional day before, where I was like, I'm still feeling like all this work I've done to feel good. Or like a couple days ago, I was dancing around the house, finally in love with my boobs, which have never been, I've just always had so much. I should. You're right. We all should.
Yeah.
But I just, it was like, I was there to love my body. I was there to love my mind. I was there to love my heart. I was there to love my journey, everything about myself. So it's like, I had some big wins, and then that day followed that was really tough and made it all feel like I hate myself again. I was back, right, in this rejected place. So it was cool to, like you were saying, find a place of, but I don't have to be controlled by this thought anymore. I don't have to be controlled by this. It is literally like when they say create new neural pathways, I had an embedded trauma neural pathway that was getting in the way of everything. It was like, I had some auditions to tape when I was there, which is exciting as an actor who's been out of work for a long time. You know, I was like, and they were good auditions. I was like, oh my gosh, you know, like, I can't believe, you know, it's happening again, you know. And then it was that voice on that day that came in when I needed to get that audition in, where I was just like, there's no point. Why even try? They're not gonna, you know. And this was with, you know, I don't know many casting directors well, but this was one where I was like, I know he'll see it.
Yeah. And
I know I'll have a shot at a big thing. And so it's like, of course, that heavy voice came in the strongest that day.
Yeah.
That was like, you're not worthy of this. Why would they choose you?
Well,
Why?
I want to commend, like, what you did on that day. So profound. Like you mentioned, you jumped in the pool and literally cooled off. Like,
well, it was the next day. But,
well, yeah.
But it was still there.
You took that pause.
Yeah.
And you were, like, willing to change that pathway. You took a pause. You, like, did something with your body
Physical
to help calm the nervous system. Yeah. And then once that calm state is there, you're able to, like, revisit.
Right.
And I think that's such an important reminder is, like, when we're in the heat of things, like, you don't need to solve it right then and there. You can and often should take a step back and let yourself reset, regroup, take a nap 9 times out of 10, eat a snack, take a nap, and then, like, revisit just like you did. And you were able to then, like, catch on to this whole new perspective and create these new neural pathways because you listened to your body and you could, like, still see what was happening.
Right.
And you observed it a little bit more. Maybe you stepped into it, but then you were able to step back out. And that's, like, a huge thing. It's a tremendous thing that should be celebrated.
Thanks. Yeah. I think so too. I think it also, you repeating that back to me helped me to remind myself of how we can trust our bodies.
Yes.
Our body's knowledge.
Our body knows better than the mind.
I don't think it was a conscious choice at all
that
I jumped in the pool. I literally think my body was just, like, flustered and hot and was like, you know, and so it's just like, cool down, you know. So it's cool to be like, when we tune in and learn to tune in, which is the work you do, teaching people to tune in and go, how to listen, how to pause and go, what do I need? Because at the end of the day, I think that is the way that we align and honor ourselves, is to go, am I taking care of myself? And what do I need? And those go hand in hand. But it's like that, no matter what I want to achieve in life, right? No matter what I have goals to do, dreams to do, or just stuff that I have to do because we're, you know, adults in this life, you know.
We're trying to function as a human being in the society and world we live in.
Yeah, so there are certain things that are just hard, but it's like, I'm not going to be good for any of that if I haven't taken care of this whole being that I've been given to, it's like, I think the best thing you could do in a day is to make sure you just took care of yourself and honored yourself. And like you said, how do I expect myself to move through anything from a flustered place? Because, like, you're not going to be good for anyone at that point. You know what I mean?
I have a hard rule in my life, and, like, in marriage now, right? Is like, Will is not allowed to talk to me for 2 hours in the morning.
Wow.
I wake up.
Have your space.
Yeah.
That's
and
brilliant.
It's like, and I have learned over the years, like, I love taking care of people and things to the point that I burn out and resent you and hate your guts.
Yeah.
And it's like, if I do not take care of myself, if I don't sit and feel my body, feel my breath, if I don't move my body in some way, if I don't let those thoughts in my head out, I am no good to anyone.
Yeah.
So, like, if I don't take that time for me, like, you need to let me have that space before I can move through. And it can be really hard to take care of ourselves. And, like, we can feel guilty doing it. Like, we can feel like, oh, this, that, and the other. And it's that, like, putting your oxygen mask on first.
Yes.
You have to put your oxygen mask on first before anything else.
Yeah. That is so inspiring and amazing to hear, that perspective inside of a marriage, because I mean, no, my marriage was not right. I got divorced earlier on, but as a person, I'm very much It's funny. I'm like, I tell my friends, I'm single, but I'm unavailable because I'm in a relationship with myself.
You're single on purpose.
Yeah. Oh, I'm just in a relationship with myself. I'm very, very unavailable.
It's a great thing to be.
But it is. It really is. And it feels the most right for me right now. But it also, you know, when I think about, like, I'm always on a journey. I'm never going to say I'll never get married again.
Yeah.
But I definitely have fear around marriage and what it is. And it's always exciting to hear other people saying, here's what works for me.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what I've created marriage to be. And, like, I don't have to do this or that. And I don't have to do this or that. But we do, you know what I mean? To be like, everyone makes for themselves what works for them inside their dynamic, and no one has to understand it but them, you know?
I have a great friend, Jada's, like, best friend, Kelsey.
Okay.
She recommended this book to me before I got married, and she actually led, like, a bridal blessing for me, and it was called The Conscious Bride, and there was, like, a practice kind of sheet in it, and it kind of explains all these things, but a lot of it was like, what are your conceptions of marriage? What have you seen? And then, like, what do you want?
Yeah.
And, like, writing that down and being able to come back to this and being like, yes, there is this construct of this thing, and this is how I am going to choose to step into it. And I'm going to invite my partner to, like, you know, do the same for them, so that you can kind of see, like, this is what we've seen, this is what we like, this is what we don't like, this is where we're willing to meet here. And, like, it's a whole thing.
It's just protecting your whole self, because, you know, I think that the most beautiful marriages, or just partnerships in general, you have two whole people.
Yes.
You know, they're holding hands, but they don't need each other. They don't complete each other.
You're holding your own gravity.
Yeah, exactly. They support each other's growth and evolution.
Yeah.
And it's safe, in a safe and supportive space.
Yeah.
So it's like, what a beautiful way of just being seen and supported.
Yeah.
And given the freedom to grow. It's like encouragement to grow.
Yeah.
I love that. But I love, too, just hearing, like, I'm married and you
don't
can't
talk to me. We will get in a fight if you talk to me right now. Like, just,
and that is knowing yourself.
Yeah,
you know?
and I'm giving you all the fair warning.
Yeah.
And if you choose to make that choice, you made that choice.
Yeah, because it's like, it's beautiful to have so much access to a person that's your favorite, but too much access is not good for anyone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I mean, that's the same with ourselves, even thinking about the balance we have with ourselves. It's like, I don't need to just, I mean, it sounds silly, but, like, I don't need to just be writing and journaling and listening to podcasts all day long, because that's burnout.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's just like having boundaries. It's like, okay, I've done this, I've done that. It's like, maybe if I felt like doing that whole day, great, I honored it. But, like, too much of anything is, it's
you gotta be willing.
You need to relax sometimes. You need to have fun and have nothing to do, nothing to accomplish, and you just let yourself, you know, ride the waves of whatever that day held, and surprise yourself. I think it's so fun when we surprise ourselves.
It's magical.
You know? Yeah. We're actually magical. Yeah. You know? I mean, I really, it's funny. I grew up thinking magic was, you know, Harry Potter, and I do still think that. But,
yes. 100%.
But I'm like, we're more magical because, like, manifestation, you know, speaking things into existence.
That's how Luna happened.
Really? Okay,
like,
let's hear.
Will and I had getting a dog was hard for us because I was like, I want a rescue. Okay. Like, I want a rescue. Yeah. That's really important to me. Will was like, I need a golden retriever. Like, my heart needs it. I am one. I need it. And I'm like, oh my God. Like, and he was like, and it needs to be a puppy. It has to be a golden. And I'm like, oh my gosh, how is this going to happen? Yeah.
The puppy bond.
Yeah. Which, like, I was all for the puppy.
Yeah.
And we kept looking and kind of being like, oh, it's not working. It's not working. And one day, we found a 12-week golden retriever puppy that needed to be rehomed, and we, like, jumped
on it,
and got her. And it was like, it was such a cool thing because I've always really believed, like, I've had the honor of having a lot of people in my life who have helped me see that you can make things happen. You create your reality. And there's danger to that statement too, but, like, on some level you can help make things happen. And it was so cool. I felt like that was the first time I saw it in him, too. And he was like, oh, my gosh, we have this ability to make magic. Like, we created a golden retriever puppy.
Well,
like,
you
look what we
created
did.
the podcast, too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You're so true.
And the
so
impact,
right.
And the thing with podcasts, you don't even see the impact you have. Yeah. You know what I mean? To listeners. And it's a gift because you did your thing. It's art.
Yeah.
You did your thing. You shared your voice and what you wanted to put out there. And then the world gets to turn it into, it's like you send it out in good energy. But it's like people get to hear it and interpret it the way they need it.
They make their own meaning.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I really, and like you were saying about, like, it is kind of scary to think about the statement of the power we have to create our reality. But, I mean, on the flip side, it's like, you know, I grew up with a very underdeveloped ego and sense of self, and I'm developing that now in a healthy way apart from the voices that were given to me. But a lot of the voices that were given to me were very shaming, very critical, very condemning. And so if you're repeating those words, because manifestation is, what are you repeating to yourself? What are you speaking into existence? If you're speaking, I'm not worth anything. I am shit. I don't feel this. I feel, you know, I feel fill in the blank. You know what I mean? Then you're going to see that. That's the power of words and thought and and so it's like you're going to create your reality. So for me, it kind of got to the point where I was like, so what if everything matters, or what if nothing matters? What if all this is stupid, or all of it is of the utmost importance? Actually, it kind of doesn't matter either way, because I realize what I've been doing is not working for me. So why would I not just try to be like, wake up and do all these crazy cool affirmations about how confident I am, about how, you know, accepted and loving and respectful of myself I am, how I deserve good boundaries, I deserve good connections, I deserve good opportunities. You know, it's like, why would I not try that when all I've known my whole life is saying the opposite? Yeah. And it's not serving. Yeah. You know?
And it's so, and there's like such a beauty in that too. And like, you are observing what was not working. And you're observing, like, there are all of these thoughts. And just because these thoughts exist does not mean they're true. I am going to choose which ones are true and which ones I am going to inform the way I create my reality. Yeah. And I think that's where that statement can become dangerous, is like, I fear it when people like never want to honor the dark parts too, or they think because I think this, then it must be blah blah blah, and it's like but just like you said, it's a beauty of like, well, wait a minute, I don't have to believe that. That's not actually true. That's just a thought. That's just a way that I was perceiving things. So what if I try it this way?
It's playfulness.
Yeah, it's curiosity.
Like, yes, it is. And my one of my trauma therapists told me that curiosity is, you know, I don't know the way she worded it, so I'm probably gonna butcher it. But curiosity is like welcomed in when you feel safe. So it goes back to what you were saying about just get yourself grounded, or like just get yourself in connection with your body. Whatever your body needs, honor the basics. Yeah. And it is quite basic. And it's just, it's funny to me that like I have been feeling my body's in more alignment now. Like I went to literally the GI doctor to work on my intestines and to figure out what's wrong with me, you know, blah blah blah. Last year, and they gave me this medication. I was just like, I mean, I've been trying all kinds of things my whole adult life where it's like, I've exhausted it all, you know? And it's just funny that I'm not even worrying about it now, you know? And I don't really have many issues lately, you know?
And when your body relaxes.
Exactly. And it feels, the stuff I've been doing, the stuff I've been realizing, it's almost a little maddening, because it's like, I've conceptually known all of this for years. I've been doing this work for a long time. This, you know, focusing in on trauma therapy, on mental health work, on working with your own therapist and psychiatrist, on reading these books. So a lot of it has been in my head, but so many people, I think that's a trap, get so stuck thinking, I have all the knowledge. Well, I've read all the stuff. I'm like, but have you put it to practice? Yes. Have you trusted yourself to put this to practice? Or are you just banking on, I'll be ready for the test, I guess, because it's, you know, it's in my head. It's like, that's not how life works.
You can practice it every day and give yourself like small spaces to start trusting and practicing and scaffolding that like trust building relationship with yourself. So then when you're in those bigger moments, you have a little bit of knowing.
Yeah. And it's like even knowing where to start. Yeah. It's like honoring the nudges to go, what are things that I like have been ignoring? What are things that maybe like I've deep down wanted to do, or wanted to say to that person, or wanted to, you know, create? or start and I haven't honored. Or even just asking yourself with your hand over your heart, just like, hey, what do you need? Like,
Yes.
what would help you feel connected or feel like you? I was talking to my mom about, like, Mom, why don't you dance more? You know, like, and she sometimes gets frustrated with, like, choreography. We're like, no, turn on music and just dance.
Yeah.
I'll dance with you, because her body wants to dance. She loves dancing. I love dancing, you know? But, like, we often just don't do the things that are pure. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Because they feel like a waste of time, you know, or they feel like, I don't know, maybe we're afraid of judging ourselves. Sometimes you maybe start to dance and then you start to realize, oh, that's the part of my body I haven't liked my whole life. So I'm going to, you know, or I don't like the way I feel in these clothes. Well, that's why, okay, I've been reading The Way of Integrity by Martha Beck.
I love Martha Beck.
Too. Oh my gosh. Like, yes.
Yep.
I can't even get the words out for her.
Yeah.
That was just me trying to praise
it's next
her.
level. Yeah. Word vomit.
But she's just like all about asking yourself, are you comfortable?
Yeah.
Because we've told so many lies. She says that trauma and socialization are what have taken us away from ourselves and our integrity. And I just think the more we can do to she has the no lie test, which is she challenges no lie challenge.
Yep.
She challenges people to do. She's like, don't lie. She's like, you might have to think a little more and speak slower, but what if you were just so honest with yourself, with everyone? Like, am I comfortable right now? It's like, not so much. What can I do to make myself more comfortable? Because this isn't about anyone else. This is about me. Everything is about you. And what's beautiful, this is one of my favorite little things that I was like, I realized as I was stepping into believing in my worth, which is, again, obviously all of our worth is not dependent on anything. It's just there. It's just always going to be there. We're always going to be worthy. Yeah. Whether we get anything done or not, you know. But in Florida, when I was out with Maisel, my little chicken dog, I'd either be walking her or I'd be driving in my car with the window down, her little head out. She's just being her, right? She's just so content being her. She's not living for anyone. She's just her. Everyone that sees her just has an immediate reaction of joy. Yep. I'm driving 45, you know, on this, like, you know, mini little highway thing, and I hear someone screaming because they're so excited beside me in their car about her. And then I see a baby that probably is not old enough to speak, you know, on the beach, just go, at Maisie, you know? And Maisie's like, she's probably not even fazed. Yeah. She doesn't care. She's just happy to be in the sun, you know, and to be with me. And I was like, we are like that when we're in integrity with ourselves, you know? When we are being in harmony with ourselves the way we were created to be, we spread joy. We just do. It's like you're not smiling thinking I'm walking on the beach thinking I'm going to smile at this person and hope that they smile back. You're smiling because you're fucking radiating from your soul and you don't care. You don't need anything from them. You don't need any perception gauging or affirmation with a smile back. You just give it. You know, and it's just, you see yourself affecting people when you're in alignment and when you don't care. And that's, you know? That pure. Yeah, you know, that's pure and true. It is. Tapping into what's pure and true right there for you. I love that. So something I really want to ask you about today is your experience with mental health. And I want to talk about I'm having a hard time with using the word disorder. Sure. And that's something too I wanted to hold space for, is like, we say anxiety disorder, we say bipolar disorder, but maybe these things aren't disorders. Yeah, even like autism spectrum disorder. Yeah, maybe it's more people who experience being bipolar. Well, it's just people who are not neurotypical. Yes. You know? It's like, and that's okay. It doesn't mean it's a problem. There's things to learn in all of those spaces, in my perspective. And it's like, I think often with mental health, we're kind of taught like it's a similar space where we see square peg, round hole, like I don't fit this. And that adds to the trauma people experience and the unfolding of their experience. Yeah, and the stigma. And the shame. Stigma. Yeah. And you are like sitting before me, this like beautiful, radiant, intelligent, like lively, soulful human. And this is a part of you. And I think it's so important to share that, like,
it's a part of your strength, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because so much of what you're talking about today has been things that this experience has required you to learn about yourself.
Yeah, I love that you bring that up because I really have been thinking about, I mean, I'm always thinking about words now and the way that we label things and how we attach ourselves to that, how we connotate. Because someone might have a word and be like, oh, that word means this to me. I'm like, oh, odd. To that person, it's bad, you know? And so I'm like, how do you interpret it? At the end of the day, it's all relative, but for me, it's what serves me and what doesn't. And I can only speak for myself. I can only speak for my experience, obviously, in the bipolar experience. But I was really thinking this past week, especially because I've been reading so much of the holistic psychologist who she is not against medication or anything, but she's just like, let's not avoid the trauma work, the, you know, unpacking of everything that makes you and your thought patterns, your behaviors, that's developed the way it has as coping mechanisms to survive what you had to go through.
Yeah.
And so I look at my dad's family, and they all, not that everyone has even had the luxury of having treatment to find their accurate diagnoses, but there is a lot of addiction in all forms, and bipolarity, and there's suicide on that side of the family, and it's just a lot of challenge. I look at it, I see a lot of pain, I see a lot of struggle, and a lot of challenge, and a lot of feelings. I think especially with addiction, because it is a disease, that it comes from people that, it feels so much, you know, and it's so scary to face all of those feelings when you feel like you're just feeling too much all the time.
Yeah.
You know, and oftentimes bipolarity feels like that for me. And in the past, before I had the vocabulary to express what I'm dealing with, and the I guess validation that's often been received through my fortune of having a psychiatrist that's awesome, a therapist that's awesome, to help me name things, to separate myself from things, and to understand the experience I've had with everything in my life. So I agree that the word disorder is, I mean, it's in the DSM-5 left and right? It's almost on every single thing. It's just like, it's this disorder, that's disorder, you know? It's what we call it. And I do think, at least in the realm of the people I've worked with and the professionals, you know, that I admire so much and read about, there's no shameful connotation by any means on their part. But it is still, it's kind of like, at what point do we disrupt the system?
Yeah.
You know? And that's where I've tried to get better. And I probably, if I listen back to like my first season of my podcast, I could hear myself catching the way I talk about myself, the way I label myself, and maybe saying this problem or something. And I just, I don't know. I try to be better now, more intentional about going, actually, I've reached a point where I don't think there's anything wrong with me.
There's not.
You know? But I mean, but oftentimes people are like, oh, but you're bipolar, you know? And I'm like, I am diagnosed with bipolar disorder, and it is a large part of me, but it's also when I look back at my life and how my, you know, mind has developed, I think through at least the holistic psychologist lens, it's kind of like my body created bipolarity in my neuro experience to make sense of everything I experienced. I experienced innately a wild emotional world, that I grew up in a household where my parents, you know, they weren't fully equipped to know how to take care of themselves or their emotional life, or so I was invalidated, and of course that wasn't their intention, but I definitely had an invalidated reality growing up. I didn't have space to express. I didn't feel safe to, so all of it was stuck inside. But here I am, this wildly emotional person, which is a gift. It makes me very sensitive to the world. It makes me sensitive to things that matter. It makes me sensitive to what feels right and what feels wrong to me. which helps me navigate my life, but I was taught to not trust her, these strong emotions inside and that voice inside. And so I grew up, I guess outsourcing my worth and everything because I didn't know how to trust myself. I had to ask everyone, do you think this is okay? Do you approve of this? Would you post that? Is it weird if I say this? Do you, it's just everything.
Yeah.
Right? And because I didn't know how to trust. But I guess going back to the childhood, people that experience really extreme things. And I was child molested by the kids next door, which is, it's interesting. I didn't really face that or fully remember and accept that it happened to me until I was 19. Yeah. I didn't talk about it till I was 24. And I don't think I could. I didn't know what to say. And not to mention, all along, I've kind of known that I'm not straight. I'm definitely a queer person, but again, labels are confusing, and I now have peace that like life is a journey. So is sexuality,
It's so much more fluid than our culture holds space for.
Exactly. Everything, I think, is.
Yes.
Because we're souls trapped in bodies, Yeah. And so I think my body made sense and developed this bipolarity. I know I was genetically predisposed as well, but looking at how it formed in me, I was anxious since I can remember. I had massive anxiety attacks growing up all the time, and I still really struggle with that. But I also think people with a lot of anxiety, they're people who care a lot.
Yes.
They're thinking about what if, they're just wanting everyone to be okay. They want to be okay,
Yep.
And I just had all these emotions that I had nowhere to go, and then all these extreme experiences. And my dad, growing up with mainly the alcoholism was the main addiction that was prominent. And his bipolarity, that was, he's self-medicating with alcohol, Yeah. So it was just very explosive and unpredictable and unstable. And so I had these extreme, heavy experiences externally and internally, didn't know what to do with them. So if you're swinging one way that's really extreme, my mind went, oh, well, we want to experience the other extreme, and we're already here, and we know all this. So, how about here?
Yeah.
How about extreme joy? How about extreme fun and adventure and positive and good vibes? And not to say bipolarity is just all good and all bad, but we swing, between the depressive pole and the hypomanic pole, and those can mirror in these symptoms, the emotions expressed. You've got depression, anxiety, and irritation and anger that generally, everyone's bipolar, experience manifests differently depending on who you are and what's going on. Mine looks different depending on what year I'm in,
Yeah.
Sometimes it's up and down every day, and then sometimes it's like a 4-month episode, and then I swing into stability for a while, and then I might upswing into a hypomanic episode for a while and be really productive and creative.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm grateful that I have good doctors and good rescue pills to help level me, but overall I'm not, like every day, I'm not on a strong medication because I've done so much work, and there's no shame in being on medication or on being higher medication, whatever.
Yeah.
What your body needs is what your body needs, and take the help you can get from professionals. But I've just learned how to let my highs and lows serve me, and how to say, especially when I lived alone in Paris, I had the space alone outside of the socialization I grew up in. Outside, I didn't know anyone when I went there, and I ended up living there for 3 months, and I'm so grateful. I want to go back because I was free to be fully me. I didn't have to explain my sexuality to anyone, but I was happy to, because again, it's a journey.
Yeah.
It's not like I have to be like, I'm giving you the answer you want to hear. It was just like, I'm figuring it out, and here's where and that was accepted. It felt the conversations I had there were very free. Also, my bipolarity, I wasn't bothering anyone there. I was just there. I was depressive at days for sure, but the depressions moved through me quicker and with more ease. And even when they were extreme, or I had to be laid out in my flat by myself for that whole day, there was this romanticism about it, because it was like, this is part of me and I accept it. I'm okay with it. I am learning to not be scared of it. And I think the fear of ourselves and our diagnoses and what we've been labeled with as problems or issues is over half the battle. Because when you learn to make peace with it and go, like my hypomanic highs used to scare me because I was like, I'm going to spiral out and going to need to be hospitalized. And again, no shame if that ever did happen. However, I can trust myself to manage what I've been built with. I've been created. That's the purity that's in me, is my bipolarity, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, you are just like the seasons.
Yeah.
We were talking about that earlier.
Being
like,
attached to nature.
Yeah, you're tuning into the seasons of your body and your experience. Like, what do I need right now? Yeah. It's going to be different every day. Yeah. And the best that any human can do is meet yourself where you're at day by day and honor what that is. No matter what the things around you are telling you, you know, and your body knows that what you need.
Exactly. And I think I don't know, maybe it's the Enneagram 4 in me, but I really struggle a lot with purpose. And I think all of what you just said has become my purpose, is the going, you know what? Just learning to be okay and accept me and give myself what I need in each day, each season. That's the purpose. Make sure I'm taken care of now, you know, because I didn't feel taken care of growing up. But it's, and again, no shame or anything, but it's like how worthy of a purpose if we're just focusing in on like ourselves. Like, I know that sounds so simple and so, like, duh, but I didn't.
It's the best we can do. And if we, like, circle back to this oneness, like, taking care of you is taking care of me. And the truest I can be of me, like, that can unfold into the world around me.
Exactly. Then you're the dog running around.
Exactly.
Sharing joy.
And that is contagious.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This is so much fun.
It is fun.
I hope that we get to be like dogs running around.
Yeah, we are.
After
we
this.
are.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much. And how can people, like, I'm so excited that This Is Temporary is coming back. Can you share how people can follow you, support you, be here on this journey with you?
Sure. Yeah. This Is Temporary is just at This Is Temporary Podcast on Instagram. My Instagram's attached to that. It's at Lacy Hartselle. But yeah, I love people being a part of the journey and the conversation and people reaching out like you and I have done. Yeah. We're like, hi, I want to talk with you about good things in life and growth and, you know, healing.
It's like so soul giving. I just keep turning back to that in these conversations, is like, this gives me life.
Purposeful.
So thank you. Yeah, thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yay. Thank you for taking time to listen to the wise one inside of you today. Please rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast to help it grow. Until the next time, let's keep taking it one breath at a time.